Hello everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with another news update. We have news on a new WWE or plans for a new WWE show which should air not weekly but at sort of special intervals throughout the year. More on that in a second. We also have news about planned changes to NXT TakeOver shows and what this could potentially mean for the length of such shows. Would any of us complain about NXT TakeOvers perhaps going a little bit longer? I don't know, maybe the beauty of takeovers is that they last a short amount of time. I'm not sure, but let's see about that in a second as well. And also we have news on what Don Callis thinks of the notion of Kenny Omega potentially wrestling one day for Impact Wrestling, which would of course be a huge coup for the second biggest promotion in North America. But let's crack on with it. Let's take a look at all of the news. So yes, first of all, as reported by barnburner.ca, apparently WWE are planning to launch, or relaunch I should say, Saturday Night's main event. Of course, this was a classic show before the days of Monday Night Raw, which would air not as regularly as Raw, but would be kind of their more regular shows in between pay-per-views and would feature the likes of, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. Then they tried to reboot it again in sort of 2006 to 2008. Didn't really catch on as well then. I remember a match featuring, I think, DX, and there was a cage at ringside. Maybe they trapped Legacy in there or something like that. I think, if I've got the time frame right in my head, potentially. And also, of course, we now see that they're going to relaunch it again in 2018 or perhaps in 2019, but certainly in the near future. Now, apparently this won't be a weekly show. It won't be like a regular part of the WWE network. It won't be every Saturday night, but apparently it will instead be sort of for special occasions. They'll throw out a Saturday night main event show prior to, for example, the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, of course, takes place on Sunday every year, and WWE are aiming to just slot a cheeky show in the night before the Super Bowl on the Saturday night's main event. I think this is quite a good move. It could feature sort of special matches that maybe are, unable to fit into a clustered sort of pay-per-view card, but could be used to give its own spotlight to matches that, that perhaps deserve it. So I think it's quite a nice idea. I wonder if they'll return to that old school set, the old school kind of vibe with their ringside area and the stage and the setup and everything like that. Maybe even the colour of the ring ropes, or whether it'll just be another, I guess, sort of cookie cutter. Does that sound a bit too critical? You know how Raw and SmackDown look essentially the same, but one's red and one's blue. I wonder if it'll just be another one of those. I hope they go the old school route, because personally I find that a lot more pleasing on the eye. In other news, as reported by various sites, including the Wrestling Observer and Sportskeeda, apparently NXT TakeOver shows are going to be pushed back 1 hour from 8 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. But, crucially, WWE are not apparently looking to lengthen the shows by any great stretch. So what does this mean then? Well, from what I can glean, from what I've inferred from my research online, apparently this is to allow for more of an overrun, I guess. We've seen certain NXT shows overrun, including the ones that, were main evented by Gargano and Ciampa, because those matches deserved sort of a special length, and by overrunning the traditional length of the show, it kind of made them seem a bit more special. By pushing the shows back from 8 to 7, I think they give themselves more of an opportunity to do that. I really hope that this doesn't mean that NXT shows are just now going to be an hour longer, because I think, as I said in the introduction, part of their appeal is how streamlined they are. You're going to get 3 hours of quality wrestling, and it's not going to stray too far over that allotted time limit. However, at the same time, you could argue, 3 hours of great wrestling, 4 hours of great wrestling, I'd take the 4 hours of great wrestling. So it's a bit of a strange one, considering they're not actively looking to lengthen the shows. I think maybe it'll just be, as I say, to allow for some more overrun, I guess. Apparently it's not certain whether this will affect the upcoming NXT show prior to SummerSlam, but it will be in effect for NXT TakeOver Los Angeles the night before Survivor Series in November. And finally, Don Callis, a man with his fingers in a lot of pies at the moment. He is obviously one of the vice presidents of Impact Wrestling. He's a commentator over at New Japan for the English commentary sort of announce table alongside Kevin Kelly. He recently appeared on Jim Ross's podcast to talk about the possibility of the current IWGP Heavyweight Champion Kenny Omega one day wrestling in Impact, which would of course be monumental for Impact if it were true. And while Callis didn't say, yes, this is definitely going to happen because of the burgeoning partnership between promotions such as New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact gradually sort of getting involved in the mix as well, he said it could happen. It could happen. It's not necessarily on the table, but it's something that could happen in the future, because if you look at the way that side of the wrestling landscape is developing over the past few months, as Callis pointed out, there's a lot more cross-brand activity. Look at the Jericho Cruise coming up this fall, where you'll see, a cross-branded show featuring the likes of New Japan, Ring of Honor and Impact all in the same, I want to say venue, all on the same cruise ship. So Personally, I can't particularly see it happening as the lay of the land stands right now. I don't think Omega would go over to Impact. I don't think New Japan would allow it, especially now that he's their big face of the company, ace of the division, IWGP Heavyweight Champion. But I think that you never know how things are going to change. You know, we maybe never thought that WWE would recently enter a partnership with Noah, allowing Hideo Itami to go back over to Noah and wrestle for his old promotion. So maybe things will change. You know, those ties will be strengthened, but I guess we'll just see how it develops. Would you like to see Kenny Omega wrestle on Impact? Do you think they'd handle him well? I think they might do, considering Impact's improvements since the start of 2018, but I guess it's one of those ones where we'll just have to wait and see what happens. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave us your opinions on any of these stories or any wrestling news stories in the comment section down below. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can do at JackTheJobber, and you can follow all of us at Cultaholic. And if you want to as well, you can check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, to hit subscribe and join us.